Shalom, Akim, all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shah Ba'Shem, Kodash, double honor to the apostles, elders of Great Millstone. Salute to sincere Akim out there of the hopeful elect. Right, so today, May 31st, you got some top news stories out there. Uh, it was a drone attack out there in Moscow. Okay, that's one of the top news story today, and which in Russia they took down, I believe it was 8 drones. And it was no, they said nobody was badly injured, wasn't no deaths reported behind it, but of course Russia is pointing the finger at Ukraine, and if not Ukraine, they certainly believe that NATO had something to do with it. Okay, all right, but we also have to weigh in the factor that it could have been Russia setting up a false flag attack on its own turf to keep this war in continuance. The same shit that takes place in America, all right, with these false flags attacks, like 9/11, for instance, which was the biggest one or the most famous one here in the United States, all right, even to the point where you still got people that actually believe that, some wild towel heads hijacked airplanes and took out the World Trade Center, all in the name of Islam. Okay, it was basically a false flag to further out the global elite's agenda of creating a world war to gain global domination eventually. You have certain countries that don't want to get down with the big corporations, and would rather invest in the development of their own countries instead of instead of allowing puppet leaders to be set up to drain the resources of their countries in benefit of these major corporations that are owned by the elite bankers. So the West are not the only ones who conduct false flag attacks in their own countries, but also in the East they do the same thing. Russia, okay, because Putin is no angel by all means. He's an Edomite. He's the devil. All right, and I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened, but these are the factors that you got to weigh in. Whether it was Ukraine, whether it was the CIA through NATO, or whether it was Russia themselves. The time we're living in at the end of the day is war. Okay, you got a lot of the citizens in Moscow or in Russia in general, Russian Federation, that are basically tired of war, just like the average American citizen is tired of war. Okay, but to keep these wars going, you gotta do fear tactics. For the people, you gotta have a reason to keep the population believing that there's a need for war. Okay, so matter of fact, let me get Ecclesiastes. I got Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. Then I'm going to jump down to the 8th verse. It says, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Verse 8, a time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. Okay? And we're clearly in a time of war. Anybody that's souped up, going to church every Sunday, hearing that Jesus is love crap, and love thy neighbor and all this crazy stuff that they teaching in the church, and trying to apply that in today's times, you clearly out of your goddamn mind, man, because we're in the time of war, and we're certainly in the time of hate. All right, we're in the time of hate, and we're in the time of war. Race relations, inner city violence, poverty, which basically leads to crime, okay? And ultimately these foreign wars being fought, which show you clear as day that we're in a time of war. All you have to do is turn on the news. Turn the news on. You're not going to get any good news, okay? All right, so this is the book of Matthew, chapter 24, verse 6. It says, and ye shall hear wars and rumors of wars. All right, yeah, you're going to hear wars, man. You're going to hear about wars constantly in the news. Okay, the thing in Ukraine ain't settling. The tension out there in the Middle East and countries like Iran You know, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, all right? It's not settling down. Out there in Palestine, between the Palestinians and the so-called Israelis, all right? It's not settling down, man. War intention is is just constantly growing, man, to the point where it's just gonna bubble to a third world's war when these countries start detonating those nuclear missiles, as prophesied in the Bible. All right. It says, "For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." Yeah. So all of these rumors of wars and these little proxy wars that's being fought, with these different countries throughout the world, it has to come to pass. It has to happen. It has to take place, man. All right. So that way the Lord could come back and rid the world of evil and be justified in slaughtering these people, man, who ain't right, who's staging most of these wars, man. Okay? Which it starts with the nation of Edom, of course, which is the so-called white man. But then, you have the other nations, the other heathen nations who are his counterparts with him. They all gather at the United Nations, man. They have all of these G8 summit meetings and conglomerating with each other to do what? Conduct war. War games and such. All right? It reads on to say, "For nation shall rise against nation." Yeah, nationality is actually determined by your father's lineage. Okay? So when it says nation shall rise against nation, that is going to be race wars in this world, man. Okay? Like I said, racial tension is at an all-time high. All right? It says in kingdom against kingdom. Now that's the war between different countries. United States of America locking horns eventually with the Russian Federation, in which the Russian Federation is becoming like the former USSR. Is gaining more allies to eventually go against the United States of America, which is Babylon the Great. All right? It says, "And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places." So-called natural disasters, real diseases. Some of these are made up diseases, okay? That that the government, the elites of the society, the Dr. Fauci's of the world, you got the World Health Organization, the CDC. They plan on unleashing these diseases that they have stored up in these laboratories, man. Okay, so there's going to be pestilences in which these diseases will ultimately lead to a lot of death, and with death comes more diseases, man. Especially if death is at a large amount to the point where the bodies can't be contained, man. So it's going to be diseases spreading. Okay, famine means lack of food. All right, besides the homeless and poverty that we have out here in this world, there's going to be a lot of people besides that's not going to be able to eat. Okay, the price of food is not cheap anymore, man. Value meals and things like that are about to be obsolete soon, man. Okay, so there's going to be a great famine, man, in this society. And yes, it's pre-planned for the most part, but nonetheless, it's prophesied. It says, "All these are the beginning of sorrows." So these are all the beginning of sorrows, man. These are all the beginning of sorrows. This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3, verse 8. It says, "Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey." Okay? So we have to wait, be patient, and wait for the Lord, Yahweh Shai, to come back and destroy this place, man. Or take down our enemies, rid the world of evil. Okay? That's what we're waiting for. You can't take matters into your own hand. You got a lot of Israelite groups out there getting carnal. And the shameful part about it is that they're getting carnal with each other. They're not even going against the enemy. You got some of these guys that say that they're not cowards or whatever. All right. But when it comes to the so-called white man, they're not ready to throw fists and go blow for blow with the so-called white man. They out there at the gun range showing you that they can shoot, but they ain't shooting down the enemy. They ain't shooting down Esau. And I don't advise them to go out there and do it, but why project yourselves doing that, man? Like you ready to go to war on a carnal level. Okay? And then when it actually does when you actually do get physical with somebody, you getting physical with your own Israelite people. So-called brothers who actually teach that we're Israelites. Okay? All right? You know? Now, some of them brothers are sincere, but they're being misled by their leaders, man. You know? Okay? But the Lord said, wait upon him until the day that he rise up to the prey. So we have to wait on Yahweh Shai, man. And that's what we stress out here at Great Millstone. You know, just keep teaching. Just keep teaching his word, man. Keep doing these videos. Keep going out there on the highways and the byways. You know, make sure you stay prayed up. Most importantly, man. Okay? And continue on doing the works, man. All right? It says, for my determination is to gather the nations. And that's what we teach, man, prophecy. And we see that the Lord is gathering the nations. All right? Out there in the Middle East, you know, this is the tension of war is still heavy, man. You know? You know? Every politician talks about how they're going to bring the troops back, but troops are constantly being pulled back from one country and deployed to another country. Okay? All around that Middle Eastern region. Okay? So the Lord is gathering the nations, man. That's what his determination is, to gather the nations so he can eventually destroy them. It says that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them mine indignation. And the word indignation means righteous anger. And the Lord has every right to be angry with the other nations, man. You know, they all lie in bed with America, which is Babylon the Great. And America promotes bullshit. And when I say bullshit, I'm talking about the breaking of the Lord's statutes and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah. Okay? They teach idolatry. They push witchcraft, sorcery, homosexuality, adultery, women rights above men. You know? Okay, well, basically woman's lib, which is whoredom for the most part. Okay? All right? And these other nations are cool with that, man. These other nations are cool with that because they sold out to America, man. All right? So the Lord is going to destroy these other nations. It says, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Okay? So the Lord is going to destroy these other nations, man. And that's why, you know, you see in the news, every day in the news, you can look up some new things dealing with war happening in these foreign countries, man. Okay, like I said, today's top story, you had it out there in Moscow. It was some drone attacks out there. Okay, it was some drone attacks out there, and Russia is looking to point the blame at Ukraine, at NATO. You know, so the tension ain't gonna cease. I don't think there's gonna be any peace talks if that's what you're expecting. Okay, or a ceasefire or what have you. All right, the tension is always going to be there until the Lord eventually destroys America, which is Babylon the Great, as prophesied in the Holy Bible. So I'm going to end this video on that note. Say shalom while we're rocking to you brothers out there. Hopefully you were edified. Shalom.